welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much. It's lovely to be with you both.
It must have been such a game changer at an early age to have that huge mindset shift where most young people are focused on either having an impact or making money, going to college for one or the other. But to know at such a young age that you could do both. And you talked about all these, being a serial entrepreneur and starting multiple businesses. Tell us a little bit about some of the businesses that you've started.
Well, it's been a mix. So I've started some very intentionally that have been nonprofits and then some that are for-profits, and experiencing that aspect of when is the right time, depending on the purpose or mission of an organization, to structure it in which way. Some of those I've made the wrong decisions and gone, wish I had set that up as a for-profit. That was a bad idea and created complications for myself. But the first organization that I was the co-founder of and was the CEO for 7 years really came out of looking around as an impact investor and saying, there are not the kinds of organizations that I can invest in where I'm really confident that they have that social or environmental side covered, but that they have a sustainable business model and they're actually investable and going to be able to pay this money back. And so I, with my co-founder, we looked all around the world. We thought we'll just bring to Australia an incubator or a program from somewhere else and support that to create more investable opportunities here in that space. But when we did that and when I looked around, I actually wasn't that impressed with what I saw. And so that spark of, oh, maybe I'll build it myself kind of was lit in me, whereas before that I would have never said I was an entrepreneur. And so one of the things that frustrated me when I looked around was everywhere, incubators were telling the organizations they worked with to build a sustainable business model, but none of the incubators had it. And I'm someone who's very much a practitioner. I will listen to someone when they've already been where I want to go, when they have practiced what they preach. And I thought, it feels odd to me that you would tell organizations the importance of building out this business model, and yet you're completely grant reliant and have no sustainability yourselves. So I set out to say, I want to see if I can build an incubator that does have a business model and that can actually be sustainable. And so we set up the Difference Incubator, which is still running today. And I did the modeling and thought it would take me 3 to 5 years, maybe a bit longer, to get to sustainability. And we did it in the first 2 years. And it's still a sustainable organization. My deputy CEO took over from me. I've actually got a meeting with her after this. She's still going strong. They've, for over a decade now, been operating across Australia and the Pacific Islands, building the sustainability of organizations that are trying to do great things in the world. And so that piece, again, the curiosity and the desire to say, hang on, who says we have to do it that way, is always in my mind when I see things out there and I think, okay, is there a better way to do it? And so I'm looking for people to work with who are thinking in that way and can build things. And then when they don't exist, the entrepreneur in me kicks in and I think, oh, I'll build that. But yeah, so that was an example of one of those organizations that I built that's still going strong today.
About this whole thing is the idea of relevance and significance. You've got so many of I read some of your posts, your blog posts, or some of your writings. It's the constant thread in all of it. And I've spent it's been almost 25 years now in the commercial real estate space. And one thing that whether it's me or any of my counterparts or anybody over the years is they've done very well for themselves, and they've created some really interesting businesses, and they've done some really creative things. But there's always this thread of, how do I be more relevant? How do I be significant in the world? And how do I take it to the next step? So I'd love to know what it's like within your incubator world, because you've got to deal with an awful lot of folks who think very highly of themselves, have done quite well, but they want the significance, they want the relevance. But then you've probably also got this mix of folks that come in and say, I want to be relevant and significant, but maybe they aren't the best entrepreneur in the world. So how do you bring that together and make it so it's this interesting community of people that are really on the forefront of doing some really cool things and some innovative things, but still having that relevance and significance and having an impact on the world? How do you bring it all together?
Yeah, I mean, it's such an interesting question because, as you said, there is really this tension often that we look to the outside world like we're successful. We're ticking boxes of what people would say should make you feel fulfilled or significant, or that you would have those aspects already in place. And yet inside we kind of are still asking, is this it? Like, this doesn't quite feel like I thought it would. So that's a really common experience for people. And I think it does connect back to that previous comment that I made around the aspects of actually understanding yourself, because the more that we've done that work to understand that foundational piece, and we're very grounded in who we are, what our values are, how we behave and make decisions, and that sense of our future state or that vision for what we want to be part of in the world. When you have those two places, it actually, the way to thread that, or the opportunities you say yes to or no to, become much clearer than they are if we don't have that sense. So I think if I focus in for a moment on your question around, say, for example, the aspect of being quite an expert and in the real estate space for a long time, I always encourage people to not think that as they start to shift into a headspace of going, oh, what would give me that meaning or purpose that's currently lacking? I need to start a charity or a nonprofit, or I need to make a donation. Pause on that for a moment and come back to the identification of that common thread. Assuming you like what you do, there is a different answer. If you're going, I actually do want to burn it all down, I don't enjoy it. But if you enjoy what it is you've been doing for decades, then my point would be to say this is going to look different for everyone. So that idea of doing good will look different depending on what your skills are, what your interests and passions are. So if it is real estate, then it's saying, okay, what is it about that I love? What are some of the components potentially of my own personal or organizational core values that aren't necessarily playing out in the way I engage with real estate? How would I weave them in? So bring it back to the core business, and you can then start to say, okay, how can I, moving forward, engage differently in the area of real estate so that it feels more fulfilling, so that it feels like it has some purpose? I'll give you an example. For me, because my thread and my passion is around that, bringing doing good and making money back together into the same business model, but I really do believe that business can play a role in society to make it better. Part of what I do in my broader investments, when I am making an investment in real estate, I still make sure it connects to what I care about. So here in Melbourne, one of the real estate investments that I went in with another group of impact investors on was this incredible building where a whole bunch of purpose-driven organizations were able to be housed in this space that, from an environmental perspective, a sustainability perspective, was built to purpose to create these amazing, architecturally amazing environments for them to work in, but also that ticked boxes environmentally. And I was creating this hub and vibe for all of these similar organizations to be working. So it meant it wasn't just a real estate investment, but I actually felt a connection to it. And that is going to look different for each person. But once you're clear on the pieces that give you that relevance or purpose or meaning, you then can look at how you're showing up, how you run your business, and start to just tweak. It doesn't have to be massive at first, but tweak those decisions, tweak how you operate and engage so that all of the aspects of your life have more meaning and purpose. Because I think what can happen too often is we then try to weave in the purpose or meaning by making a donation or thinking of, we'll do something one day, rather than what can I do now that actually gives me that energy back for the core business, for the main aspects of where I am spending my time and putting my skills to work in the world.